We are back with another training video. If you guys watched the last video, you saw my lower body maintenance day, which was just a couple days ago. And now we are into the first shoulder and arm day of the week. That lower body maintenance day was to finish off the week. Now we're moving into the shoulders and arms, which if you watched as well, I'm running 3 shoulder and arm day per week, 1 lower body day per week, and 1 chest and back day per week, just because I'm in a specialization phase for the shoulders and the arms at the moment. So what I'm going to do is take you guys through the workout, show you or break down the amount of sets I'm doing, what I'm focused on within each set for each exercise to just get the absolute most out of each of the training sessions. Just like in the last video, I'm in the garage. It's cold out here, only like 50 to 55 degrees. So I'm just warming up the shoulder joints, trying to increase my overall just body temperature. It's going to help reduce the risk of injury in regards to a higher body temperature is just more adaptable. You're going to be a little bit stronger as opposed to when your joints are cold, which is obviously going to make you a little bit weaker. Today's agenda is mid delts, rear delts, biceps, and triceps. And for the mid delts, I've got 1 set of just traditional dumbbell lateral raises. This is just a warm up here. And then I have 3 sets of incline dumbbell lateral raises to where I'll lean back to be able to get a little bit more tension in this lengthen range as I come up to the top. Just a traditional seated dumbbell lateral raise as you're coming up to this top position. There's not really any tension down here at the bottom, and all the tension is up here at the top. So we're training the muscle in much more of the shortened range, which is where you're gonna feel a lot more of that mind-muscle connection. So before doing the incline dumbbell lateral raise where I'm back here and getting more tension in this stretch position, I like to start with just a shortened biased movement. So sitting straight up and down to get the tension in more of the squeeze, just because it allows me to create a little bit better of a mind to muscle connection within the lateral delts. So 1 hard set of these. So I'm going to start with, then I'm going to move into a little bit more of the lengthen work for the majority of the volume. 2 warm-up sets are done. Last week for this, just 1 set of dumbbell lateral raises. I did 25 pounds for 10 reps. So for this week, my main concern, once again, is obviously I want to progress the lifts, but I'm not going to progress at the sacrifice of keeping my form on point. So I'm going to focus on just bringing the weight up to that top position and then controlling the weight down for anywhere from a 2 to 4 second negative, but just making sure I'm feeling those lateral delts, controlling that weight as it's coming back down to the bottom. And I'm going to allow progression to come to me. So a lot of the times with lateral raises, it's very easy. And I run into this all the time where I'll start cheating and I'll start using a lot of my hips to swing that weight up, which can help you get more eccentrics out of it or lowerings, which is still challenging the muscle. But I'm trying to keep my progressions very, very honest with strict form. I'm going to aim to try to get to 11, but I'm not going to start swinging or anything like that. If I can't get to the point where I can get that weight back up with just the lateral delt, that's where I'll call it quits. Hopefully I can get to 11. We'll just see where the chips fall. At number 1, it's going to make sure I get nice and relaxed, fully in the moment. A lot of times it's very easy as you sit down, you start getting a little bit of anxiety before you even do the first set, just because you're trying to beat what you did last week. So then you get out of your body and into your mind, and you'll start doing all sorts of weird stuff with your form just to progress. I'm not going to allow that to happen. I'm going to stay in the movement and just allow the reps to come to me while controlling what I control is just moving that weight from A to B as in control as I possibly can. And if I progress, amazing. If I don't, I'm still accumulating those effective reps that are near failure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, Oh, it's burning. Hey. 11. All right. So I got 11 good reps. My ego got a little bit involved there, and I tried to get a 12th where I failed on it. But again, I'm not too concerned about that. Going to failure on an exercise like a lateral raise, I typically don't like to go to failure early in a workout, especially if I'm doing heavy compound type lifts. But a lateral raise where I'm challenging such a small muscle group on the body, it's not gonna hit my nervous system too hard. So getting all the way to failure there, 11 good reps is where we'll call it. I'm very happy with that progression. Now we're gonna do 3 more sets with an incline to be able to challenge more of this stretch position. At the bottom, there's gonna be more tension here when this arm starts behind the body, as opposed to here, there's not much tension there. I'm gonna start with 20 pounds here. Last week with 20 pounds on this, I was able to get 10 reps as well. So the goal here, once again, is going to be to aim for 11. I'm gonna at least try to not allow myself to hit a rep at the end that's to failure. I wanna just get that last one very clean all the way through, hit about an RPE 9, just to save a little bit and not totally exhaust the lateral delts for the last 2 sets that I have after this first one with the incline as well. So again, gonna let those reps come to me, focus on keeping good form, no momentum, and just control what I control. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. All right, 11 reps. That's progress from last week where I got 10 once again. So I progressed the traditional lateral raise. I progressed that first set of the incline, meaning I'm grooving really well. Probably hit an RPE 8 to 9. With my lateral raises, something that's very hard for a lot of people when it comes to training, you have to know your body and tendencies very, very well. So if you watch my last leg day, you'll see on the leg extension, the hyperextension, the calf raises, where I know I'm hitting failure is when that weight, or it's really, really hard for me to get that weight back up to the top. The pushing part of that exercise, that rep's really slowing down, but I can grind through. For me, with lateral raises, I can start to feel when I'm near failure, but those reps aren't slowing quite as much. I just have to internally know those cues that I'm getting from my body that I'm not going to be able to get the next rep. But that first set of the lateral raise, you saw I reached failure because I wasn't as in cue with myself to know how much I truly had left, because the reps continue to go at a pretty good pace with a movement like a lateral raise for me personally, to where I'm not gonna be able to grind slow reps out and still get that full range of motion. So just being aware of yourself, knowing which movements you can kind of grind, and when they start to slow down, you can continue to push through, and then other movements where you'll be going at a good rate and all of a sudden it just drops off and you've hit failure. So it's just important for everybody to train to failure sometimes, to really understand your body, different muscle groups, how you respond, to know if you're actually accumulating to the right RPEs and training hard enough in regards to training near failure in all of your sets to make them as efficient as possible to see the best progress over the long term, and not be selling yourself short and actually only being an RPE 5 to 6 when we need to be at least roughly, for most, like an RPE 8 to 9 to really force progress as more of an intermediate or an advanced training. Second set of incline lateral raises. Last week I got 9 reps. So this week I'm gonna shoot for roughly 10. I've rested around 90-ish seconds, which is all I really need for this. Heart rate is back in a good position. I feel good, so let's get this second set. I'm gonna aim to get 10. The goal is to at least get 9 to match last week. try for 10. But again, staying in the body, not stressing over the rep count, and just allowing myself to accumulate fatigue in the muscle by controlling the form of the movement as best that I can. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, progress once again. It's a good set. We'll rest and we'll do the third and final set for the mid delts. For this last set for the mid delts, if you guys watched the last lower body training, you saw for my calves on the last set, I did a Myo-rep match set, meaning I got as many reps as I could, and then I took mini rest breaks for around 10 seconds once I got really close to failure, and continued to do more reps until I matched the same amount of reps that I got in the very first set. This is just a way to accumulate more approaches to failure without having to add more actual sets. They're just little mini sets to get you back to the same number of reps that you got for the first set, just to accumulate a little bit more of a stimulus. Like I said, I'm in the second phase of this current 12-week training program that I'm in. The first phase was weeks 1 through 4, to where I was only doing straight sets. This second phase, weeks 5 through 8, I'm adding 1 Myo-rep match set to the lateral delts as well as to the biceps. And then in the last phase, phase 3, weeks 9 through 12, when I do all 3 sets, I'll add Myo-rep match sets to both of the remaining sets after that top set as well. I'm estimating I'll probably get somewhere between like 7 to 9 reps on this last set. Once I get to that point where I'm like an RPE 9, that's where I'll stop, rest 10 seconds, and then continue to accumulate reps until I reach the total of 11 reps overall, like I got in that very first set. My mid delts are already quite pumped. I can feel a lot of blood in them. I have a good mind-muscle connection to them at this point. So one more good set, control the weight, allow the reps to come to me without getting anxious about trying to hit a particular number of reps. Here we go. Controlling that weight down and feeling my mid delts. Or nine. All right, that's 9. RPE, roughly 8 to 9. 10-second reps, rest, and then we'll knock out 2 more reps to equal that total of 11 reps to match that first set. Here we go. Last 2, really good form. Really control the eccentrics. Keep the mind on the muscle. 1, 2. All right, money. This exercise that you're about to see is for the rear delts, but it's a little bit of a unique one just because this is a little bit of a unique machine. I actually bought this off of somebody on Facebook Marketplace a couple of months ago. It's because I really like it for tricep work and I really like it for rear delts. So what you're gonna see is as I pull down on these cables, the actual attachment starts to come down as well. So if I was to try to pull up on this cable, it's not going anywhere. You have to be pulling down on it to be able to create resistance, and it keeps a lot of tension in the mid-range of these exercises. So You're not getting a ton out of this lengthened position. I'm not going to get a ton of tension on the rear delts here, and I'm not going to get a ton of tension in that squeeze or shortened position either. But the whole contraction throughout that, as I get past that lengthened position and all the way through this mid position before I get to that really shortened position for each exercise, there's a ton of tension. So I've learned to really like this machine. And for rear delts, I'm doing a rear delt row. So it might look like a back exercise, but if we're trying to target the lats, which are the sides of the back, we're thinking of driving the shoulder blade down as the elbow comes into the hip. It's going to really target your lats. We'll talk more about that on the next back day that I'll film. And if we're trying to target more of the mid back or the traps, the rhomboids, even the teres, in some regard, we're doing scapular retraction. So for the lats, we're trying to drive the shoulder blade down. For the mid back, we're trying to squeeze the shoulder blades together. But if we're trying to just target the rear delts, we want to drive the elbow away from the body without creating this retraction when we're squeezing those shoulder blades together. So I'm going to row, but I'm going to keep those shoulder blades apart and drive the elbows out away from the body. And it puts a ton of tension on that rear delt. And I honestly, out of any exercise I've ever done for rear delts, I feel this one the absolute most compared to anything else. I just drive a ton of blood into those rear delts. So this is just going to be a warm-up set just to get comfortable with the movement, make sure that I'm feeling a really good brain to rear delt connection within my body, which is definitely there. So I'm going to do 6 to 8 more reps of this, and then we'll get into the first working set with it. For this exercise, I actually didn't do it last week on this particular day. I'm doing it on a different shoulder day to where I'm aiming for like 15 to 20 reps this week. I'm trying to stay between like 6 to 12 reps or in this session of my different shoulder workouts through the week. So I was at 55 reps or 55 pounds last week, and I got around 20 reps. So I'm going to move it to, let's do this first set at roughly 85 pounds. See how that feels. I should land somewhere between the 6 to 12 rep range. But again, I'm not focused on trying to hit a perfect number of reps, especially in this first week at a much heavier weight. I'm just trying to focus on keeping my form in a really good position and pushing myself as hard as I can while getting really close to failure and not caring where those reps land. All I care about is making sure those reps are starting to really slow down as I'm pulling. And once they're to the point where I don't feel like I could get another 1 or 2 with really good form, that's where I know I've hit in that RPE 8 to 9 or so, which is that sweet spot for me where I want to be landing for the proper intensity. And then the weeks after that, I can then start to try to progress in the amount of reps that I'm getting. Definitely starting to slow down. 11. I can grind them out with the rear delts though. 8. Come on. 9. All right. So you can see with the rear delts, I can get way more grinding reps without hitting failure, where it's really slowing down as I'm pulling, compared to the lateral delts, where you saw in that very first set, all of a sudden out of nowhere, the reps are pushing and going at a good pace, and then I just fail. So that's 9 reps. I've only got 1 more set here. So we're only doing 2 sets for the rear delts this week. Had about 90 seconds or so of rest. Heart rate's in a better position. I feel recovered enough to knock out this final set. Where I got 9 reps in the first set, probably somewhere between like 6 to 8 reps is where I'll land by hitting roughly that same level of overall intensity. Legs. Come on. All right, 7. Call that good, man. I know you guys probably don't have access to this machine, but I wish you could try this exercise, because if you have a struggle with feeling your rear delts, this movement's just money. Now we've got 3 sets of incline dumbbell curls. Just did one warm-up set off video with about 15 pounds for 10 reps. I'm gonna do one more warm-up set with 25 pounds for 3 to 5 reps. And then my working weight is at 30 pounds. So this is just make sure the joints are nice and warm. Make sure I'm feeling a good connection with the biceps throughout the exercise. Not feeling any pain. Just making sure I'm warmed up and lubed up to be able to push near failure in this first working set that's coming up, with avoiding or at least decreasing as much as possible that risk of injury, especially when it's this cold out here. Last week on these, I was able to get 30 pounds for 11 reps. This week, again, exact same theme. It's gonna focus on keeping form very, very controlled. When I'm down in this bottom position, my goal is just to make sure that the elbow is staying behind the body as I curl. So I'm not gonna cheat and use my my front delts as I come up, try to pull that elbow forward so it gets in front of the body. I'm going to ensure that that elbow stays behind the body the entire time. So I'm not getting this movement here, which is having the front shoulder assist with the biceps. Again, I'm just trying to keep as much tension on the biceps so the elbows stay behind the body throughout the entirety of the movement. Control the weight, control the eccentrics. It's already burning. 8, 9, 10. Come on. Ooh. Call it quits there. If I'd have went for that 12th rep to progress from the week before, it would have been close. I could have maybe grinded it out, but I could feel on that 11th rep. After finishing it, I was really wanting to drive that elbow forward to include the front delt, meaning that the biceps were pretty much toast at that point, and to try to get another rep, I'd risk keeping proper form throughout. So this week, just matching the reps that I got from last week, continuing to accumulate those reps that are near failure. It's still a great stimulus and doesn't mean that something's wrong or I need to do something different to be able to continue to build more muscle. It just means I need to be more patient, because after training for 15, 16 years at this point, I'm not going to be able to progress every single week, especially on a movement for a muscle group as small as the biceps. Those progressions are going to happen at that slower pace. So as long as over the course of months it's going up, it's fine, but that doesn't mean that every single week it's going to go up. And if you are going up every single week, chances are you're compromising in your form to go up, which means you're probably not actually progressing because you're not keeping all that tension on the targeted muscle that you're aiming for, and you're allowing other muscle groups to start to assist. Last week on set number 2 of these, I was only able to get 7 reps. So this week, even though I couldn't progress that first set and I matched it for 11 reps, if I can get up to 8 reps on this second set as opposed to the 7 from last week, that'd still be its own form of progression as well. So we'll see how it goes this week. It's gonna stay in the body. I keep repeating that just because it's a reminder to myself. Staying in the body, I'm aware of progressions, but I'm more focused on just executing the movements as well as I physically can, staying away from the anxiety that starts to build as it really starts to burn, and just focus on moving from A to B throughout. And again, allowing that progression to come to me as opposed to forcing myself to progress at the expense of keeping good form and all of that tension on the targeted muscle that I'm trying to attack. Come on. 6, 11, come on. 8, control it all the way down. Oh, there we go. Form was wanting to slip at the end, but I really kept just my focus on my body, moving from A to B, keeping those elbows behind me, and I was able to get one more rep as opposed to last week on that second set, which is progression. So super happy with that. All right, the third and final set for biceps. Same 30 pounds, same exact movement, but just like you saw with the lateral raises, I'm going to do a Myo-rep match set. So I'm gonna do as many reps as I can till I get near failure at that RPE 8 to 9, rest for roughly 10 seconds or so, and then do as many mini sets as required to get back to that same 11 reps that I got in the very first set of these incline dumbbell curls as well. 3, 4, come on, 5, 6, control the weight, nice and slow. All right, that's 6. I've got to get to 11, so I need 5 more reps. I'm gonna rest for 10 seconds or so here, allow some of that fatigue to drop, go back into it. If I could get 5 here to finish off the 11, I will. If I can only get 2 to 4, I'll do that, then rest another 10 seconds to accumulate the rest of the reps that I need to achieve 11 overall. So that's 6, 7, 8, come on, 9. Whew. Biceps are on fire. Okay, so that's 9. That was 3 more. I need 2 more reps to get to a total of 11 reps. Then the biceps are done. Just a couple more seconds. Let that fatigue drop off, the lactic acid and the biceps drop off a little. Now I'm just gonna focus on really controlling these last 2 reps, really good form, controlling the weight, keeping all of that tension on the biceps to finish them off. 1, 2, oh, that's 11. Biceps I did 3 sets, lateral delts I did 4 sets, rear delts 2, triceps 2. My triceps tend to not be able to withstand as much overall volume. They get sore much faster just because I have a much better connection to them than I do lateral delts or even biceps, meaning I'm able to drive a lot more tension into them with exercises, so I don't need quite as many sets in order to create a very similar amount of fatigue in them. So we're just gonna finish off here with 2 really hard sets. Here's 1 warm-up set. I'll probably do 1 more just to make sure those elbows nice and warmed, feeling that good connection to the triceps, and we'll get into these last 2 sets. All right, I'm a little bit more fatigued at this point in the session. This is what, my 4th exercise, I believe, which just means I'm gonna be a little bit more tired. So really focusing on form stays very important, to not cheat myself in any sort of way and just stay locked in each and every rep that I'm doing. And something that I hear often when I'm working with clients as well is I'll send them a training program and they'll give me some feedback after the first week or 2 and they're like, this is too easy. And it's always so interesting to me because I think the difference when you know your a beginner in the gym versus more of like an intermediate to advanced in the gym is your ability to take very, very simple programming, very, very simple workouts, and make them extremely challenging by the intensity that you bring to each rep and each set that you're doing, right? If somebody comes back to me and says, this is too easy, I need more, I know right out of the gate that just giving them more isn't going to solve the problem, right? I need to start looking at videos in regards to how hard are you pushing yourself? Are you using enough weight or doing enough reps for the amount of weight that you're using to get near failure in each of those sets? Last week I got 11 reps for the skull crusher. This week, I'm gonna aim for 12. Again, if I only get 11, I get 11. If I only get 10, I get 10. What I control is my intensity, keeping form on point, and giving an honest and true effort throughout while controlling the weight. 1, 2, 3. Elbows are popping. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Starting to slow down. 9, 10. Come on, Chaz. One more. Control it. Oh, that's all I got. 10. And I reach failure again. See, my ego wants to be bruised at the moment. I want to start worrying about, man, I didn't even match the amount of reps that I got last week, right? I got 10.5 and failed before I even got to the 11th rep, which is what I got last week. I would have loved to get 12 this week and progress it, but I didn't even match it. Again, like I said, I'm much more fatigued at the end of this workout, noticeably more fatigued even last night. I know I didn't sleep as well. I got like 5.5 to 6 hours of sleep compared to being able to get 8 or 9. My food hasn't been all that great this morning either. It's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon and I've had a yogurt and a banana. It's because I've been stuck on emails all day long. So my environment to come into the session wasn't amazing. And that might sound like excuses, but it's just context. To not freak out, not think I need to go change my training or I'm getting weaker, but to just know, okay, didn't sleep that great, haven't eaten that great, stress is higher today due to just stuff happening from a work standpoint as well. So 10.5 reps, hit failure. It is what it is. I'll come back next week and continue to attack it. It is what it is. We'll rest for a moment and then we'll do our last and final set for the day. Last week, I got 7 reps for the last set. So this week, that's hopefully the goal. Again, where I didn't get as many reps on that first set as I did in the last week. I know fatigue's higher. So if I'm only able to get 5 or 6, I'm just gonna take it, control what I control, and ensure that I'm getting effective reps that are near failure. If it progresses, awesome. If it stays the same, awesome. If it goes down 1 or 2, awesome. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, all right. 7 in total. I will take that. This training session is over. Next time I come back to do it again, especially to come back to skull crushers, I'm gonna make sure my sleep is on point, gonna make sure my nutrition is on point, so I don't run into that same exact sticking point, and I'm able to progress. As always, I appreciate you guys for following along. If you got to the end of this video, it really does mean a lot to me. Appreciate you all. Have an amazing day, and I'll chat with you all soon.